Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're talking about the hidden hazards that lawyers face, the kind of stuff that can totally upend a career. We're going to break down 12 essential tips they use to protect themselves, their practice, and most importantly, their clients. Think of it as navigating an ethical tightrope, where one tiny misstep can have huge consequences. So let's just kick things off with a question. When you picture a lawyer getting into trouble, what pops into your head? Probably some dramatic courtroom showdown, right? A heated battle with a rival attorney? Well, the reality is way less dramatic. But honestly, it's a lot more dangerous. The biggest threats aren't coming from some high-profile opponent. Nope. They come from small internal mistakes. It's like a tiny snowball of bad habits, maybe disorganized files or poor communication, that starts rolling downhill. It seems like nothing at first, but it can quickly turn into a full-blown avalanche of problems. So who's really in the hot seat here? The data is pretty clear. It's the solo practitioners and the small firm lawyers, especially those who work in emotionally charged areas like criminal law, family law, or personal injury. They don't have the big support systems of a massive firm, so they're right there on the front lines, making them way more vulnerable to these kinds of internal landmines. Okay, so let's get into it. We've broken down all these strategies into 4 main areas to really make sense of how successful lawyers navigate these challenges. We're going to look at building a solid foundation, mastering client relationships, sticking to the 4 ethical pillars, and finally, protecting client privilege in this digital age. First up, building your practice's foundation. A law practice isn't just about knowing the law, it's a business. And having a strong, organized operational backbone is absolutely critical for steering clear of some of the most common complaints. Now, this might seem like, business 101, and it kind of is, but here's the thing. In the legal world, this stuff is everything. A simple system to track deadlines, a review process so nothing falls through the cracks, clear and honest billing, these aren't just for efficiency. They're a lawyer's armor. They are the absolute first line of defense against some of the biggest complaints out there. But look, strong systems are only half the story. That brings us to our second big area, the human element. Because even the most organized office can go down in flames if the client relationship is a mess. In fact, a ton of potential disasters can be stopped right in that very first conversation. It sounds so simple, right? But this is a huge trap that gets so many lawyers, especially when they're starting out. It's this idea of door law. Basically, you take any and every case that walks in the door just to pay the bills. It feels like a survival move, but really, it's often a recipe for disaster. It can lead you into cases you're not ready for, or even worse, into working with clients who are just impossible to please. And this is where that gut feeling really matters. Good lawyers learn to spot the warning signs. Think about it. A potential client who's already fired 4 other lawyers, or someone who asks you to bend the rules, those aren't just small worries. They are giant flashing red flags. Learning how to say no is honestly one of the most valuable skills a lawyer can have. It's kind of wild to think about, right? In a world where we're all glued to our phones, this is still the #1 complaint against lawyers. Clients just get so frustrated when they feel like they're being kept in the dark. And ethically, lawyers have a really clear 2-part job here. Keep your clients informed and get back to them when they reach out. And the solution is so simple, but it's also incredibly powerful. A well-informed client is almost always a happy client, just returning calls quickly, sending copies of documents, breaking down a bill so it makes sense. These aren't just chores. They build trust. They make a client feel seen and respected. And that is the absolute best way to keep a complaint from ever happening in the first place. Okay, now we're getting to the absolute core of it all, the bedrock of the legal profession. These are the duties that you just can't compromise on, the ethical pillars that hold the entire system up. This right here should be a daily mantra for every single lawyer. Let me be really clear about this. If you dip into client funds for your own use, business or personal, you will face serious consequences. Misusing client money is one of the quickest, most surefire ways to lose your law license. Period. There are no excuses. Next up, the duty of undivided loyalty. To put it simply, a lawyer just can't serve 2 masters. The client has to know without a single doubt that their lawyer is 100% in their corner. That's why having a solid system to check for conflicts is so important. It prevents any situation where your duty to one person could mess with your judgment for another. This is so true. In the legal world, your word, your reputation, that's your currency. This duty of absolute honesty applies to everyone, your client, the lawyer on the other side, and especially the court. And here's the kicker. You don't even have to mean to be dishonest to get in trouble. A careless misstatement can still land you in some very hot water. This brings us to diligence, or the flip side, neglect. Neglect is a really serious charge, and it often goes hand in hand with bad communication. But the reasons behind it, well, they're often really human and really complex. Let's be real. Practicing law is relentlessly stressful. Neglect rarely comes from a bad place. Sometimes it's a simple fee dispute that just sours the whole relationship. Other times, a lawyer is just in way over their head. But a lot of the time, it's a symptom of something deeper, like the crushing weight of mental health struggles or substance use that makes it impossible to function. And here's the good news. The legal profession gets it. It recognizes these intense pressures. There are these amazing, confidential resources, lawyer assistance programs in every state. They're there to help lawyers get the support they need, often long before a problem spirals into a major complaint. All right, last but not least, let's tackle one of the oldest and most fundamental duties, confidentiality. And we're going to see how modern technology has basically created a whole new minefield. Just look at this list. It really shows how much the world has changed. Confidentiality used to be about making sure your file cabinet was locked. Now, the traps are literally everywhere. A casual conversation in a coffee shop, a vague tweet about a case, using the airport Wi-Fi. These are the new digital landmines. The core rule hasn't changed, but the battlefield is now digital, and it applies to every single email, tweet, and document. So after all that, what's the big takeaway? It's that being an ethical and effective lawyer isn't a finish line you cross once. It's a marathon. It's an ongoing, continuous commitment to being diligent, self-aware, and always, always learning. So when you boil it all down, it comes back to these key things. It's about having strong systems that protect you from simple mistakes. It's about communicating so clearly that you build unbreakable trust. It's about never, ever compromising on honesty and integrity. And, maybe most importantly, it's about having the wisdom to say no and the courage to ask for help when you need it. And that really leaves us with this final thought. Sticking to these standards isn't just about avoiding trouble. It's about actively earning the incredible trust that society puts in the legal profession every single day with every single client.